this video, we're going to be going over the new Cursor agent. Now, at the end of this video, you're going to know if Cursor is the right tool for you, especially if you're a beginner, you're just starting out, you're hearing about all these different coding AI tools. There's Cursor, there's Windsurf, there's a ton of them that are new and coming out every day, and you're just kind of stuck, not really knowing which one you should use. That's my goal, for you to be able to feel more comfortable in your decision as you move forward. This isn't going to be a super complex, super technical tutorial. I'm going to show you how to set up Cursor. I'm going to walk you through basically what you would see as you're trying to figure out your way through the app. And then you can make a decision on your own if you think that it's going to be a good app for you, or maybe it's too complex, or maybe it doesn't have the things you have. But again, we're going to make a small, simple project. I'm going to be using Python. I'm going to be making a user interface, so just a basic app. And we're going to try out the agent, and then we can talk about the cost. Now, as far as it being beginner friendly, well, I'm really going to leave up to you guys to decide if you think it is, and for sure leave that in the comments. But again, we're going to set it up. I'm going to make a small project. This isn't a coding tutorial by any means, but if you're trying to learn about AI, you're trying to get better at technical aspects of building apps, coding, all that stuff, definitely check out my school community, Simplify AI. That's where we have courses on basics of software development, basics of Python, basics of AI. Really, we walk you through all the tools and principles that you need to understand in order to start building these projects for yourself or for clients if you're trying to set that up for yourself. So let's get started and walk you through the Cursor setup. Now, I know you've seen this page a ton of times by now. You see that they have a free tier. I think that's awesome, especially if you just want to get your feet wet, see how it feels. And of course, they have a $20 tier, $40 tier. Definitely $20 is competitive with everything out there. ChatGPT is like $25 a month now. Claude is like 21, 22. So they're definitely staying competitive. But if you haven't purchased it, I'm sure you're paying for some other AI subscriptions already. So maybe you're not too sure if you want to jump in. Definitely would recommend you just start with the free one, try it out. It gives you a really easy way to install it. You're just going to download it and install it, whether you're on Mac or on Windows. And once you open it up, it's going to look something like this. Now, right away, I don't think this is the most beginner-friendly kind of like interface. I know, because I work as a software developer, that this is just going to be my code editor. I know that in order to start, I would need to open this folder, and I want to start a new project. So I'm just going to click new folder, call it project 3, create, and I'm just going to click open, and the rest of the screen as it loads up, well, looks pretty familiar to me. If you've coded a little bit before, you've seen other editors like VS Code, these fonts, or this appearance of it, that might already look familiar to you. If you're just starting out with programming, if you're not super familiar with the software engineering world or making anything with code on your own, this doesn't seem super intuitive. So in my opinion, that might even feel a little bit overwhelming for beginners. What's cool about Cursor though is that you do get these like little 5 prompts that kind of show you with GIFs what you need to do, just kind of like how to walk through the app, which again, super neat to have. But at the same time, this makes it a lot easier to get started if you have previous coding experience. Now, the other thing that isn't explicitly mentioned is that if you want to work with specific programming languages, you are going to have to install the interpreters. In this case, we need to install Python because we're going to make a Python project. And the way you do that, you're just going to go to python.org. You're going to click the latest version, download it to your computer and install it. That's going to be the same whether you're on Windows or on Mac, so that's not a big deal. But again, I feel like maybe from the beginner's perspective, something that might be a little bit easier to do would be to go with an online editor. And again, that might not be super intuitive right off the bat. Okay, so now that we did that, let's go ahead and cross that out. And the next thing we're going to do is what's called setting up our Python virtual environment. And if you haven't really coded before, maybe that doesn't mean anything to you. And if you've coded with Python just a little bit, I think you've probably ran across, some obstacles trying to do that. It can be a little bit annoying, but just to give you a really quick overview, whenever you code in Python, just like we had to start a new folder to save all our files, save all our code, in a similar fashion, it's good practice to start a virtual environment, which is similar to your folder that's going to store anything related to that project. In the same way, you would want to have a virtual environment where any Python libraries that you download would only be tied into that folder. That might not make a lot of sense right now, but just it's something that you typically do once you start making more projects like this. But I do want to see if the Cursor agent will do that for us. So let's actually just go ahead and get started over here. Now again, back to this interface. If you haven't used a lot of code editors before, basically here on the left, this is where all your code files are going to go. And here is where you're going to have your interfaces to chat with Cursor. Now we can actually do just Command I or probably Control I of your own Windows, or you could just click in here and you'll see these two little chatting options. Chat is going to be for more if you're trying to edit certain parts of the code, but the new thing that was implemented was that agent feature that they just released. And from what I hear, it's that they released this because Windsurf did something like this very similar with their code editor, so they're trying to stay competitive. But you actually have to go down here and click agent in order to use that part. What's supposed to be cool about this is that it's gonna take care of writing more of the codes, prepping the files, downloading the things that it needs in order to get your code to run. So that's really what we're gonna test out. But back to the early point, which I know I kind of keep repeating myself, is that this is going to be somewhat familiar for people with coding programming experience. This isn't going to be super familiar if you're just starting out. So again, that's why I'm just trying to, I know I may sound a little bit repetitive, but I want you to feel comfortable with this app, even if you're trying out the free version. And this is actually what we're going to try to make for our project. We want to make a mental health lead magnet. So a client that I worked with previously, they were going to spend all this money in making just a custom quiz that they can like email to like potential leads, potential clients, to basically give them feedback on what their personality type might be. And they were going to spend a ton of money on making that custom and paying developers or paying some agency. But, you know, at the end of the day, I just spent a little bit of time showing them how they could potentially get an intern or student to help them build this with AI. I just kind of walked them through how powerful these AI tools have gone to build simple things like this. And this is something that I think is a big benefit of these AI tools. You don't have to go back there and spend, 5 years going to college and trying to outdo all these other professional developers. But in you spending the time to work with these apps, making things with these apps and getting better at them, the value you can provide to people that have no idea how to use them can really help their business and can help you give value to their business and get you to earn money with your AI skills. So again, just a quick overview. This is a mental health lead magnet. It's going to make, again, mental health lead magnet. It's going to be a short personality questionnaire. It's going to analyze the answers. It's going to base it on the Myers-Briggs framework. It's just a personality type test. It's going to analyze the user's questions and it's going to give some feedback. So let's copy this and paste it into our Cursor terminal. So again, we're going to be in Composer and just paste it on here. Make sure you have agent highlighted over here. Let me zoom in a little bit and then just press enter and watch it go. So here it's just something I noticed is that within the chat, it opens these small terminal windows. So here it just gives us the option to run this command, which I think is pretty neat. So we approve of that. Again, I guess it's asking that because that's going to start messing with files within your directory. As you can see in here, it's creating new folders, new files. Now, I didn't actually specify that. I don't think I specified that I wanted it in Python or that I wanted any specific framework. The previous time that I did this, I was a little bit more specific, but I think I want to test it out a little bit further. And then here, it seems to have written the code pretty quickly. Just looking at these libraries right here, start using the Flask library, which is used to build web app or APIs with Python, which again, I didn't specify, but it seems these route symbols that you see here, that's already telling me that it's either going to be sending or receiving certain requests. And I'm not going to read through all this because again, the assumption is that people that are starting from scratch, maybe they don't have a lot of programming experience, are going to assume that it's doing things the right way. So let's just click accept and let's see how the rest goes. Okay, so it looks like it finished and it looks like it did quite a bit of stuff. We see some different folders here with more files. And last time I didn't get a README here. We actually got a README. So what does that leave you, right? If you're just starting out, you're not too sure about any of this Python stuff, these libraries, where would be a good place to go? For sure, I would read this summary that it gives you. You see right here that it says, I've created a complete mental health lead magnet application with the personality quiz based on Myers-Briggs. Here's what I built, a Flask backend, and then it tells you what file. Again, this is just for handling the web requests or data that is being sent to our application. And maybe we read this and we're not really sure what it means by Flask backend. Maybe we don't know what it means when it says routing, but here we know that within this file, we have the quiz questions and logic. We have the personality type analysis, and then we have the results. So just briefly, even not having a lot of programming knowledge, we can see here that this is going to be where a lot of our logic for our app is going to be handled. So we can click into it and start reading it. Now, even if you're not super familiar with Python, we can skim through this file and we see this section that says questions for your personality test. How do you prefer to recharge? And then we have some options: spending time alone or in quiet environments. So there's that. And then we can kind of start to notice that with this pink text, this probably just related to our questions. We may not know what any of these other lines of code mean, but we at least have some comments to kind of like get the idea. We know this counts the responses. We know this is to determine the type, and so on and so forth. My suggestion to you is, if you're really trying to get better at building apps like this or building more techie projects and just get better at software engineering period, then it's worth spending some time trying to read this code. Now, you may be on the free tier of Cursor AI, but I'm assuming you have something else like ChatGPT or Claude, or maybe something free like Grok. It's definitely worth the time to go through the code, pay attention to it and read it. And if you don't know what it means, just copy it, go to another LLM, paste it, and then say, I don't know what this code does. Explain it to me. And now I got locked out of here because I haven't logged in a while. But again, if you're trying to get better understanding this, making applications faster, then understanding code is going to be super crucial. Again, this isn't here for me to teach you about Python. I do that in my school community, so check that out if you're trying to get better at making projects like these. But that's just something for you to not become so dependent on the LLM that, 1 second there's nothing on there, and then the next second there's all these files and you're not sure what they do. So we keep on reading. We see that it says modern responsive front end. Okay, cool. So it actually made an interface for us. It's going to be a 5-question quiz. Cool. A beautiful results page. And then we know it's using a Tailwind CSS library, which is just a custom library, again, the front end for how the app is going to look. And then it tells us some more details about the features: no registration required, instant results, personalized insights, clean modern UI. Okay, cool. So we even get some clear directions on how to run the application. So this is the part I was curious about. Here it's telling us how to create the virtual environment. That's what this v command does. And it already set it up for us. So it says here this on Windows, but I'll click it anyway and see what happens. Some things that may need to be installed on here, and then should be good to go. So let's actually just try this. We're going to click these one at a time. Okay, so we got this error. It says command Python not found. So let's just click debug with AI. I will say it replies pretty fast, faster than we can keep up with. And it is writing some pretty long bits of text. But even though it may seem tedious to read this, I think this is meant for the user to have a clear understanding of what's going on. So, okay, let's just skip to this. Here's how to fix this. First, create a new virtual environment. Open your terminal in your project and run the command. So here it tells us what the command is, and we could just do it. So let's click run, and we get the same error, command not found, Python, which is what I expected because it didn't respond the first time. And starting a virtual environment isn't difficult by any means. But again, I would think that if this is my first time working with this, I would assume that the AI coding assistant that's helping me would be able to do something like setting this up right at the beginning. Again, we got an error, so we couldn't get past that first command. So let's just click debug with AI again. So here we get some more alternatives. The error command not found indicates that Python is not installed on your system, or it's not accessible in your command line. This isn't actually a code bug, but rather a system configuration issue. Okay, cool. So we're getting some different explanations. And here we get, if you're on Mac OS, try using Python 3 instead. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and try that. Okay, so we're able to run that. We're just going to click yes here. Then the second option is if Python is not installed, which we're able to run that command, which means it does run. Cool. So we're able to get our virtual environment going. Now you can see here that we're now on the chat side because we're addressing that specific line or that specific error. So I think we'd have to go back here to the compose side. And this is where we had our original set of commands to run and start our app. So we already did this, where we did the virtual environment. So now we want to install the dependencies for app. So for any project you see, if you see a file that's called requirements.txt, usually what the things in here are referenced to is libraries that your application needs in order to run. And what I mean by libraries is just pieces of code that were written by other developers or other companies and that you basically have access to instead of having to rewrite them yourself. So this requirements.txt file is going to essentially download this code to your computer and let you to use it in a very easy way. And here we see the green and red div. The red means things that were deleted, which before we had this blank space. The green means code that was added. So let's just click accept since we're going to be using that. And you can see here, let me see if there's anywhere else where we have green and red. Let's just click accept all. And then we're going to try to install those dependencies we talked about. We're going to run this command by clicking here. And cool, you see all this means is that I went ahead and installed everything. And now we're going to run our app. So that's just python app.py. So here we see the app was able to start. And because it's running on your laptop, it's going to be running locally in this address. So just click here and click follow link. And this actually looks pretty nice. I thought it was like a pop-up to somewhere else, but this looks pretty neat. So cool. Discover your personality type. Let me zoom in a little bit. Unlock insights about your personality, unique traits, blah, blah, blah. Our scientifically backed questionnaire is based on Myers-Briggs. Okay, what you'll get: personalized personality insights, tailored mental health recommendations, practical growth strategies. So I really like how these colors look. The white on these light colors doesn't look super great, but this definitely looks professional already. And if you're wondering where all this text is within our code, we can just highlight this and copy it. And I believe if we go to our app file, which is this one right here, just close this. I'm just going to click Command F. That's to find. We're going to paste that on there. So that's actually not on here, this title. So that's probably one of our other files. Let's see, quiz, control. Let's click Control Find one more time and paste that on there. So it's not matching with anything. Okay, cool. So we found a match right here in the index.html. So you can see all this styling, which probably looks like gibberish or jargon to you. This basically all the styling that was done to make these colors look nice, make these fonts look professional, make these buttons look nice and round and very concise. Which, keep in mind, if you had to go take courses, go to school, whatever, to learn how to do this on your own, that would probably take months, if not years. And here it made some very good decisions. And here's the other thing about design: in order to make things look nice, you kind of have to have a talent for that, which I personally have never liked to deal with front end. I've never liked to deal with front end interfaces, so this is pretty great for me already. So let's click Start Your Personality Quiz. Okay, cool. How do you prefer to recharge? Let's put spending time alone. When processing information, do you tend to, focus on concrete facts? Cool. We just did 5 questions. So let's just answer through these real quick. You see the far filling up. This is super responsive, works very fast. The last one, get results, super nice. So let's click that. Cool. So your personality type, ISTJ, a unique combination of blah, blah. Okay, cool. So we did the quiz and it gave us an answer and it all looked very neat and it worked pretty nice. Now, to be honest with you, I had done some version of this lead magnet before, but that was like, I iterated that a little bit different before I just did the Python version, which was just basically typing into the terminal like you saw right here. Yeah, so I would just get all the questions on this black screen and then answer them. And I did all that in Python. Once I did that with only Python code, which again was just black and white like this, very ugly. Then I asked the agent to go ahead and give me a front end for it because I thought splitting it into parts would be a little bit easier and it wouldn't get stuck, because that's something that I've had an issue with other coding platforms. But for our case, we really just pasted that long prompt, which we have right over here, which was, again, we didn't specify anything in terms of framework, in terms of programming language. We really just said what we wanted, which was the lead magnet questionnaire. And I'm pretty surprised with how well it put this together. I think what we spent the biggest amount of time troubleshooting was just that virtual environment, which again, that's super easy to do. Once you deal with that problem on your own, that's super easy to set up, and you'd probably end up doing that in the first place to begin with. But after that, I really liked how it walks you through the directions of all the changes it makes, and it gives you the option to just click and run the commands on here. So we're able to set up the virtual environment with, again, cursor helped us do it, so that's crossed off the list. We were able to go over that shortcut, which is Command L and Command I, and that's pretty much what lets you select this composer tab. And here is where you use the agent, which is what we've been using. And again, you would use Composer if you're just starting out with your project or you don't really know where to start with your project. Chat would be more if you have a question about a specific file or something you're trying to correct, a specific bug with a specific section of your project. The one I didn't even get to talk about was Command K, because to be honest with you, I didn't think we'd finish the problem that quickly. I thought we were gonna have to do a little bit more debugging, but lo and behold, it worked. It worked first shot, which again, I didn't plan that out. In fact, this is probably the first time I work with Cursor where the app runs right away so quickly. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but in those particular situations, when I run into a bug and it seems like the AI can't figure it out, what helps me is the background that I have in technology, because I work with And that would have been a great segue for me to tell you about how we teach the principles in my school community, how we have courses going over those things, which help you become a better tech person, a better developer, a better AI creator, if you will, right? But again, that didn't happen. So I guess that's kind of bad for me. But the other things I wanted to cover, again, is that command K command. And let's say where that's really useful for me, I think, is if we wanted to change only a certain part of the file. Remember, the bigger these projects get, the more things that have to be edited. And that's probably going to take longer whenever you make those requests. And it's probably going to use up more of your credits or however it is that Cursor measures that for you when they charge you. Which again, all these tools you're paying per month, but you always have a limited usage. You just get a little bit more usage the more you pay. So if, let's say for this section, I noticed that all the questions only had two choices per question. Let's say I want to edit all these questions and I want them to have 4 choices. Well, instead of going to compose and asking Cursor to do it, which again, will look through the whole project and would probably take longer, you could just highlight the code you want to edit or that you want to fix, and you'd hit Command K, and here we could just tell it, I want each question to have 4 answer choices. Okay, and once we do that, we're gonna submit that. And now with this request that we're sending, it's gonna go through, and this is the part I was talking about earlier, which was my next topic, the red for removing code and green for adding. This is what you commonly hear that is referred to as the diff, because I guess it's the difference in the changes, or it might be something else, but that's how I remember it. So the red just means this code that's going to be deleted. The green means is the code that's going to be added. And what's nice about Cursor is that it pretty much just asks you or kind of double checks with you to make sure that this is what you like, which again, yeah, this is what I asked for. I wanted 4 answer choices instead of 2. So you could click yes here on each individual one, or you could just click accept from your request. And now those colors are gone because it's been accepted. So that's the new part of the code. So great. That's our Command K. And that's what our diff is, which is something I want to go over with you guys just because you're going to be seeing it. And it is a useful tool for debugging, especially if you're doing those bigger projects that you might be getting errors in, or you might be making bigger changes on. And the other thing that I'm a pretty big fan of is, let's say I decide to change my mind. I don't want to make that change that I just did. I want to go back. If you click Control Z, which is just undo, or you could just go edit undo just to be clear. We see here that we get the diff again, right? So we can see the differences of what the new code was and what the old code was. We're basically getting our old code back, and we can see what the changes would have been. And we could just go one by one. Let's say we want to keep it at 2 questions, at 2 answer choices, and we're just going to leave it like that. That's going to be super important, especially as your files get bigger, as your changes get longer, because if you commit a change or you ask Cursor to do something and it changes some of the things you wanted but not others, or maybe you break something, usually in regular programming, if you're just typing or adding text and you undo, you might forget where some of those older changes were, right? And that's something that I've seen with other tools, that if you undo changes, you may not have a clear view on what you're going back to. So I think that's just great for the overall debugging experience. And that's just going to be something that really lets you revert your changes that maybe you change your mind about as you go on with your project. The other thing I really liked about Cursor was how easy it made it to install these libraries. Now, this is actually something that happened in the very beginning when we started building our app initially. If we go up here, before it even started, or I guess, yeah, when it started writing the files, we see it was writing all of the code for it when we asked the composer to do it. And then we see it's writing all the files, blah, blah. But once it was said and done, it gave us those commands to install everything, right? Remember here, when it gave us the highlight on what the app did and how it was laid out, it told us the commands to install our virtual environment and then install these dependencies. So this pip command, this is something you're going to see a lot in Python development. This is what's done to install those libraries, or like I was telling you earlier, that code from other developers or other sources. And I think that was something that Cursor handled super well, especially for somebody that might be a beginner coming into this. So here you have it, guys. That's pretty much my overview of the new Cursor update. It worked great for developing that user interface. It worked great for Python development. I'm a pretty big fan of this agent update that they did. And as far as cost goes, I think it's competitive, not the cheapest, but also definitely not the most expensive. So let me know in the comments what you think in terms of a score, 1 through 10. 1 being not user-friendly at all, and 10 being the most beginner-friendly option out there. How do you guys feel about Cursor and this new update? Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you're still feeling stuck, not sure where to go with AI, I'm going to leave a link in the description where you can actually book a one-on-one call with me completely free, and I'll be more than happy to guide you in getting started. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.